Now let's talk about it.
Now let's talk about it.
What's really good? It's your boy Capital DCP. I am here once again with the lovely Miss Phoebe Davis, everybody.
Assalamu alaikum.
Yes. And in our second installment of the generational wealth series that we are building, we wanted to get a little bit of generational wealth from Miss Phoebe Davis. So, Miss Phoebe, what are some things that you would say happened to you over time with, America and different, life things that helped you become who you are, so you can help us to learn from your life?
Well, thank you. That's a great question. Well, I was born in 1955, and as you know, that was a very dramatic era for our people. It was a lot of segregation and desegregation, and I was born in the middle of all that. So, African Americans at that time didn't have a whole lot of accountability. But my father, John Henry Davis, who was raised by his mother up until the age of 13, she was a blues singer.
Mm-hmm.
She sang blues on the Mississippi Showboat. As a result of that, my father had great social skills. So my parents started out being migrant workers. But the year that I was born, they decided not to migrate anymore, to settle down in Haines City, Florida, and raise their baby girl.
All right.
I was my mother and father's last child born. Mama had a set of twins and an older son, which all did not make it. So I was the last one born, the only girl, and the only surviving sibling of my mother and father.
Wow.
So I was brought up with a whole lot of love. And my father had a third grade education, but he had a PhD in life and living. And he taught me all of those things, and they're just so wonderfully a part of me. I was truly my daddy's girl. All right. And then I began to sing, just like my grandma. But over the years, our bond just got better and better and better and better. Coming up through desegregation, at the end of segregation, I saw a lot of things. In the South, I witnessed Ku Klux Klan, the burning of crosses, couldn't eat in the same restaurant with the white people.
Okay.
And
now, real quick, was that like, and I'm being a little bit like a host, but was it like y'all just couldn't eat together, or were people being kind of nasty about the fact that y'all couldn't eat together?
That's just how it was. Okay. And they were in some restaurants, they would have an area behind the restaurant, and the sign would say for coloreds only. So we couldn't come through. We had to go to the back where it was for colors. Water fountains were like that. It was just a whole different world. And we stayed in our lane and they stayed in theirs until, as you well know, some things came apart, like Dr. King. And going from segregation to desegregation was a very hard journey for us, especially as African Americans. But my father, back to him, with his third grade education and his PhD in social skills, he acquired a job at an all-white trucking company. He was the only African American that worked there. And as a result of that, I grew up in both worlds. So I didn't have the prejudices that others had in the South because my father exposed me. And I went to company picnics. My best friends were white girls, So I had a little bit of everything going because of my father's social skills.
Okay. So did you face racial discrimination in the way that we hear about it? I'm just saying, for my generation, we hear about it like dogs and hoses and people being like, you can't walk down the street because you black type stuff.
Right.
And I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm saying maybe we were told a story that's a TV story
Okay.
and not like real lived experience compared to being a black woman who grew up with both parents who were trying to work. It sounds, you know what I mean? And then I heard you say you started singing. So you're building and bonding with your family,
Mm-hmm.
in the midst of, for color only time with
Right.
segregation time.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, was people being nasty, or like you said, that's just how life
That's
was.
how America was.
You
That's
know.
that's as far as we had grown. Of course, by this time we have survived slavery.
Right.
Okay, now the 40 acres and the mule, well, you know the story. That never really ever happened. But
Okay, so that's reparations. You were hearing about reparations.
mhm.
What did that mean?
Well,
What was it supposed to mean then
it
to
well
the
it was
people?
supposed to be, to my understanding, it was supposed to be a way of Europeans, white people, trying to give back to us what they had taken.
Mm.
And it's never happened, maybe on a smaller scale. So,
I have a theory. We'll talk about that
okay,
in
we'll
our
talk about that
generational
another
wealth.
time.
Telling you, I have a
Okay.
theory about what happened to
The,
our reparations.
yes, yes.
And some people who don't want or think we've gotten it already or don't want to talk about it or whatever the case may be, they'll bring up some of these things. But we'll talk about that another time.
Yes, they are a part of our history, and they need to be known, but not to take that knowledge and use it negatively.
Okay.
Take that knowledge to grow. So look at it in an aspect that I do.
Mm-hmm.
We stand on the shoulders of giants.
Right.
So many dues have been paid for us so that we can now educate ourselves. And we have to stop blaming others for things that we need to take responsibility. Because today you can get an education for free. So now what do you mean? And what people did to you in 1902, quote unquote.
Right.
So
So in this conversation, so we're talking about getting through those times.
yeah.
And I know you were just talking about your family upbringing. So
Yeah.
that's why I just wanted to get an
Yeah.
understanding,
Yeah.
because I don't want to imagine, people treating him like a sellout because he worked for the white man, because that's what I
Oh
hear.
yeah.
But
It was like that because for my era in my neighborhood, my father's income allowed us a very good life.
mm,
You see, so yeah, there were some discrepancies, but I didn't pay them any attention, and neither did my father. But back to that era, it was an era where it took a village.
mm,
It really did take a village. The community was so close. Nobody's family went hungry. We didn't do that. And then when my father started staying home instead of migrating, his friends that migrated and left their homes, he maintained their homes took care of their bills until they would get back. Everything was very close knit. And then if you did something in front of Miss Sally and Mama and Papa weren't there, and Miss Sally felt like you needed to be tapped a little bit for your behavior, well, you was gonna get two whippings because
mhm.
it was what Miss Sally said and not what you said. And then Miss Sally brings you home to Mama and Papa, and you'll probably get another whipping.
Right, because you
Okay,
did it.
because but today's society, you can't talk harshly or you can barely discipline a child because the times are different now.
Right. Well, so when you talk about the community,
Yes.
did race matter? Was it white? Was your black
No,
community or was
this
it your
was
white community?
segregation, total segregation. As a matter of fact,
Because your family was living in the white community, or
no,
y'all
no,
just had
no,
quote
no.
unquote white people money.
No, my father worked for an all-white trucking company,
Right.
so his income was very good
Right.
for an African American in the 50s, 60s,
But he
and
still
70s.
had to live
Well,
with
it
the
was
black people
it
pretty
was
much
total
because it was
segregation.
total segregation.
White people were here and black people were here, and usually a railroad track separated them.
Literally. I mean, it's not even a
Literally,
track, literally.
literally, and
Wow.
when I came up, a white cop could not come down in our black neighborhood to investigate a crime.
Wow. It
Okay,
was total segregation.
total segregation. And we had I remember the year we got our first African American cop. He was one of my father's friends.
Mm.
But the black cop did not question the white people, and vice versa. It just that's the way it was.
Hmm.
I know it's hard, but it was total desegregation.
I'm like, is that what we trying to get back to? Because it
No,
sounds like that's what people trying to get back to.
well,
Because, people are like, I hear people, well, once again, I hear comments, I'm reading posts
I've
where
heard.
people are like,
Hmm.
we need to have more black people in the black community,
Hmm.
black cops in the black community. And I'm
Hmm.
like, I understand that. And I don't think we should have disconnected people in any community.
And no,
You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
not, is it about race specifically? Was it about race specifically? You know what I'm saying? And you're saying, yes, it was
yeah,
totally separated. So, yes, your dad worked for an all white trucking company,
but he
but
lived in his black community.
but in his money and
Yeah,
everything he did was in the community, so he was able to share those
if it
resources.
was, but also during that period, it wasn't a whole lot of black owned businesses.
Okay.
So for that, like if Mama needed a new living room set, then my father would have to go to the white people's store to get it, because we didn't have those kind of businesses back then. And then there wasn't a whole lot of African American homeowners either. See, all of that changed down through the years.
Mm.
And I think without integration, we might not have gotten those things, because I remember going to school, we would get the used books from the year before that the white kids got, and they would be passed down to us. So that kept us actually a year behind learning.
Okay.
But that didn't stop us.
Right.
And as you well know, the church really saved us as a people.
Mm.
The church did. Um, a lot of my first encounters happened at church. The church was truly the storehouse, for the neighborhood. And there were different denominations. I was Primitive Baptist. I remember when I was 6 years old, I was singing with the young adult choir,
Mm-hmm.
because at 6 years old, I already had a big voice.
That's why I'm like,
I'm like,
wait, 6
wait,
with the young adult
wait a
choir.
minute. But my John Henry, my baby boy, did the same thing,
Okay.
and Victor as well.
Mm.
But I was 6 years old when I started singing with the youth choir of St. Mary Primitive Baptist Church.
Mm.
And I can tell you even the name of the director. He was the Reverend Dr. James Nugent.
Mm.
And he saw my talent and he nurtured it. And my very first solo in competition, I did How Great Thou Art.
Mm.
And we brought home first prize.
Come on.
See, but you don't respect these kind of things until you get a certain age.
Oh no, I try to respect them.
Oh, but
as
you
much as I
don't take
can.
it for granted. But
Yeah.
and when you start looking back over your life, you remember. So he had to be very key in my life for
Right.
me to remember. I consider looking up his family,
Mm.
because he's the one who said that, and he was from Kissimmee, Florida, and his name was the Reverend Dr. James Nugent, and he was no joke, okay? And he sparked
Kissimmee.
that music fire up under me,
I know some people. in
because
Kissimmee.
Nugent is not a common name.
Right.
Nugent.
Come on now, put it down in the comments, folks.
James Nugent,
Let us know.
the Reverend from Kissimmee, Florida.
Yep.
Yeah, that sparked that fire up under me.
Wow.
And he trained me. I didn't know I was being trained. I was just being a kid.
Right.
And he prepared me. He nurtured my vocals. He
Mm.
always put me out front. Of course, I'm down here, and everybody else was up there.
Right.
I
You
was-
had to be up.
I was singing like I was singing up a storm. Okay, Reverend Nugent. And
I don't mean to interrupt.
That's
the
okay.
love, but
uh-huh.
was Primitive Baptist the name of the church or the style of?
No, it was St.
Christianity.
Mary Primitive Baptist Church. And I really do believe that these people had a strong connection to Islam,
Mm.
because we couldn't go to church with our hair uncovered.
Mm-hmm.
And if we wore a short skirt, we had to throw we had a piece we throw over it. So we had to be covered.
Okay.
We had to be covered. And so when I transformed, when I became a Muslimah, changing my attire was very minimum because
Right. You already
I
were
was
used to.
raised to cover up.
Right.
So covering up is a part of me,
But
even
what?
before.
So can you speak to how covering up in church back then? What was that? What was that about? Because it wasn't about being Muslim.
No,
What? Why did?
this was Christianity.
That's what I'm saying. Why did people?
The primitive Baptist.
I mean,
That was the
compared to what
rule.
we see now,
Yeah,
we
churches
don't
change.
cover up no more. We try to show you what you're gonna get.
But that was
If you marry me, you gonna get this nice little tailored suit. Look
Well,
at this
yeah.
chest muscle.
That's how
You
it
know,
is
the men
now.
and the women got on tight
Well,
clothes
that
in
style
church now.
did
So,
change over the years. I
but
must
no,
admit.
seriously though, did you see any like benefit of people covering themselves? Like, what was that?
Well, it
about then?
shows modesty,
Mm-hmm.
self-esteem, especially if you're a married woman. You cover yourself to save yourself for your husband, you know, and because that eye thing, that visual thing, can be very misleading, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and as you can see, we covering beautiful garments. So,
Right. That's
Yeah.
why I've always had a high respect for women who covered themselves for
Yeah.
whatever different reasons.
yeah,
But I also grew up hearing so much conversation about women being able to not have to cover up.
yeah,
And I think it took a weird turn somewhere in there
yeah,
where it was like, you don't have to cover up your hair. You don't have to completely cover up your body.
mm-hmm.
To the point where it's like you have to be half naked, where it's
Yeah.
like
It's changed.
I feel crazy saying it the way I'm saying it because I want to see half naked. I love half naked. Ooh wee, ladies. Wow.
Well, I remember
but
my-
at the same time,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. At the same time, the spiritual side of it, it's like I don't want to watch my friend's wife in that light.
But what else can you see it in? What other light can you see it and she's half naked?
That's why I'm like, I
So
don't want to
you-
see my friend.
I don't think
like
you-
I
I
have
don't
a
think-
friend
I
who
don't
has
think
a
you can
wife, and I
control
don't
that.
want to see her looking bad like a baddie. I don't want to see that. That's for him because I don't want to see that. That's my
But
sister.
you
You know
do-
what I mean? Like that. Like that's my sister. That's not for me. For me to do all of that, I shouldn't. And then I do want to be able to speak to this person. I do want to be able to hang out. I don't want horny to keep me out of spaces with my friends. That's weird. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it's like, it's too many people who are, you know what I mean? I don't know if it has anything to do with each other, but I just look at it as respect.
It is respect. That's exactly what it is. But my thing is, unto you what you believe, and unto me what I believe. And I believe that I should cover and show honor to my family, my husband, and my dean. Okay? It's a respect thing. And I do it for me as well. Because a lot of things happen from visual. It's what you see. If you present yourself like that, then somebody's going to think that. I mean, when I step out, I'm usually covered like this. Most people know by the way I'm covered what I am,
Right.
who I am, and what I represent. And like I said, I have no problem with what you do. That's you. Because it's unto you what you believe. And it's definitely unto me what I believe.
I like that.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are here with Miss Phoebe Davis. We are talking about generational wealth, and we hope that throughout this conversation, I haven't been interrupting too much, but we hope throughout this conversation that you've been able to get some wealth of knowledge from as much as I'm getting right now. So I'm gonna let Miss Phoebe speak so that you can get some wealth like I have been in this conversation just now.
Oh, well, that's okay. We all know that you like to chat as well. Well, if I like to leave young people with anything, it's to be honest and be sincere. And there are going to be people who come into your life that are going to make a drastic difference. And you need to embrace them. Keep a humble spirit, a humble heart, because that's the only way that you can be used to benefit your people. stay encouraged and know that every road will not be bumpy. There will be more smooth roads than bumpy roads. I promise you that. Assalamu alaikum.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think that's a wrap. We're going to come back to you with our third installment where we get into those reparations and we start digging through even more time to figure
Yes.
out how did we get so disconnected from our generation.
Yes.
It's been your boy Capital DCP.
And Phoebe Davis.
Ha ha.
And break it
We
down.
out.
Deuces.
Now let's talk about it. Now let's talk about it.
Now let's talk about it.